So let's run down through those divisions real quick. Starting in the AL East, who do we think comes out on top in the next 2 months? I mean, it's a tight race.
I'm still
I
taking
say Baltimore. Yeah, I'm taking Baltimore.
I'm going to keep riding that train.
Okay. I'm with you guys there. So, okay, Guardians. The Twins are a game and a half back, and the Royals are sitting 4.
3.5 back now because the Twins have lost 2 in a row.
Okay.
I think the Guardians still win the division, but I think they're only going to have a couple. They're only going to win by a game or two. It's going to be tight to the end.
Yeah,
and then
yeah.
And then the West. This one's the race right here: Mariners and Astros, and it is really hard to pick against those Astros. They always find a way to win, and I hate that. I hate it.
I think the Astros are the pick until somebody takes them off their throne, and it just hasn't happened yet.
Yeah, and they're playing such good baseball right now. The Astros are playing such good baseball right now. It's hard to go against them for sure.
Yeah. Yeah.
Did you see that? The Red Sox are in the running for the Stanley Cup this year.
Yeah, can't wait for that.
With Messi playing linebacker for the Blue Jays.
It's probably the only shot that they got at winning the championship this year.
Actually, if the Blue Jays played football, they might have a better chance than playing baseball.
Facts. So yeah, I mean, I want to see the Mariners somehow get through this with their pitching staff, because I want to see that pitching staff in the postseason. I really do.
I do too,
but their offense,
they've scored 70 fewer runs than the Astros. They've given up 50 fewer runs, but they've scored 70 fewer runs.
They are 29th.
They've scored fewer runs than the Oakland Athletics.
Yeah, the White Sox are the only team behind them offensively.
Right.
Well, and the White Sox.
It's hard. It's going to be hard, and we've talked about it for years. When you get into August and September and then into the postseason, particularly the postseason in this case, you only face good teams. And yes, your pitching staff is really good, and your pitching staff is going to keep you in the games. But you're not going to win games if you can't score.
No,
you have to be able to score runs.
You can't win 2-1 every night.
And if you have a hard time scoring against the average to below average teams on a consistent basis, how can there be any confidence that you're going to be able to put up an offensive series against above average to really good pitching in the postseason? I just don't I don't see the offense coming through when they need to down the stretch, which is why to me it's Houston all the way.
And I wouldn't count on that pitching being that good in the playoffs either, because when those guys are in tense situations, knowing full well if they make a mistake, their offense can't bail them out. That's when mistakes get made. Yeah. When they grip the ball a little tighter, they pitch a little more careful. They come out of their game trying to protect the offense from not being able to perform. You may see these pitchers struggle in some of these close matchups because they're afraid to make the mistake they can't come back from.
Yeah, that's fair. Don't look now, but the Mets are creeping up on the Braves to take over second place in the NL East here. What's the Braves issue right now? Health? Besides injury, injuries.
Matt Olson's having just a dog of a year. So you got no Acuna, no Strider. Olson's having a dog of a year. No Albies. If it wasn't for Ozuna, that team would have really not much going offensively. And other than Sale, their pitching's been good, but not outstanding. Yeah. They're not getting the same level of play they got last year, and you can't survive the injuries if those guys aren't going to play like they did.
No.
Olson is he'll have half the production this year he had last year. Fell off a cliff.
Which is crazy. Because he had 57, 58 home runs last year?
50 something.
Yeah, insane.
He'll be half of that.
So how are you feeling about your Mets right now, Sean? How do you think they're in a decent shot for a wild card spot right now, and they're playing well.
Yep, they are.
What do you think their chances are?
I think that, on paper, it's a roster that can play. Is it a roster that you look at and that's a World Series winner? No, probably not. But they have players that can play. Nick, you and I offline have talked a number of times this year about the underappreciation for a guy like Lindor. The season that he's having this year, coupled with the season that he had last year. And it's typical New York fans, they're just completely underappreciated. And then when he's gone, you're going to look back and be like, that guy was unbelievable. Just unbelievable. Look, going into this year, I was thinking any kind of we're talking about the beginning of football season, and if the Mets are in the conversation of like right in the chances to get the postseason, I would say that's with a new manager. The talent is there. They have a talented team, but you never know with the new manager. Pete really struggled in the beginning. For the first half of the year, it was not necessarily Pete Alonso numbers.
No,
he's an all-star, but he was an all-star, but they wanted him in the home run derby, so he's kind of an all-star for that purpose.
Yeah, he was a home run derby member and all-star player only because he had to be.
Right. Like in we can go back. I don't remember exactly which episode it was, but I had said like it's a team that just plays pretty decent baseball.
Mm-hmm.
And then right after I said that, they went on like a stretch where they made like 8 errors a game, and I was like, oh my god, I never opened my mouth. but for the most part, over the course of the season, they play good baseball. It's like they really don't beat themselves. Like a team like that, I think they get hot at the right time. Who knows? I mean, you can beat anybody. You get hot at the right time. I'd love to see them just continue this kind of trajectory. Stay right there in the wild card. You're not winning the division, obviously, but stay right in there. Get yourself into the postseason and see what happens. Because this is a team that, because they play pretty good fundamental baseball, you can beat anybody.
That's a team that's talented enough. People look at them and be like, I just don't want to see them in the first round. Like, don't give me the Mets. Sure. Like, give me somebody else. Sure. Because like if they're hot, to your point, like Lindor's an animal. I mean, Lindor, Alonso, McNeil gets hot. Like if these guys all get hot, like they could steamroll anybody.
Nimmo. I mean, you get a guy like Nimmo on the base paths. Like you just never know. I mean, this guy could in a best of 5.
Yeah.
All it takes is really 1 or 2 guys to kind of go off. Your pitching is average, a little bit above average. You have 2 or 3 guys go off. That's it. That's the series right there.
It takes a Daniel Murphy.
Or it takes
Daniel Murphy.
Or it takes a Steven Pierce in the World Series, and the next thing you know, you're gonna win. Like you never know who it's gonna come from. But there are so many guys in that lineup that could get hot. That like if I'm an opposing team, I'm like, maybe I don't want to face the Mets. Like, give me somebody else.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, and on the opposite side, I know we didn't necessarily bring them up, but the opposite side, I look at a team like the Red Sox, and it's like, the Red Sox are right there. They kind of fallen off a little bit in the last week and a half or whatever. But for all intents and purposes, it's August 12th, and they're kind of right there. Yeah. Probably the worst defense I've ever seen in the history of my life watching.
Oh, they're so bad.
Like they can't play defense. And it's like I don't care how good of an offense you are. Like if my team is like, okay, we have the Red Sox in the first round, it's like, all right, just put the ball in play because they are going to beat themselves. Just put the ball in play. It's seriously.
It's so true.
They're battling the Phillies for that title.
Oh,
that's for sure.
I mean, literally, they should just leave the gloves in the dugout.
Until the Phillies clean it up, I don't care how many regular season wins they have. Until the Phillies clean something like that up, they will not win a World Series.
No, I agree.
Because you face a team that like 3 or 4 times in a series, you give them extra outs in an inning, you will pay every time.
Oh, yeah.
You will pay every time. And those extra outs are what cost you games. And the Red Sox are learning that now. So the Mets are the opposite. It's like they just play fundamental baseball. They give you 3 outs. They capitalize when teams make errors. They run the bases pretty well. I just think they're a team that I'd like to see get in, because I think if they get in and they're playing the right kind of baseball, who knows?
Yeah, you're right. Little League World Series coaching advice. I've actually seen better defense in Little League World Series.
But against the Red Sox, that really is the play. You should hit the ball on the ground, bunt, steal bases. Like they'll blow it. That's what they do.
So I think the only division race that's over is the NL Central. The Brewers are up 7.5. I don't see anybody catching them at this point.
No, now it's a matter of will the Cubs overtake the Cardinals and try to fight for a wild card spot, because they've all of a sudden come back to life. And the Cardinals are, they stole one from Kansas City the other night. They've scored 4 runs in the last couple innings to steal one from the Royals, but they're up and down as they have been.
Yep. And then our NL West is heating up here. So the Diamondbacks and Padres are 3.5 back from the Dodgers now. Diamondbacks are playing very good baseball right now.
Best team in baseball since July 10th or July 1st?
Yeah. And that's despite losing Walker. Marte went down. I think he's going to be back, but they're
25-10 since July 1st. Like Best team in baseball in that time frame. And they,
Exactly.
again, another team like Sean was saying, they just play good baseball. Early in the season, they did not.
Right.
They've finally brought it back around. And the Dodgers, what I will say is the Dodgers are getting healthy. Mookie Betts was activated today. So he's back. He makes a huge difference in that lineup. Freddie Freeman has all that personal stuff that is going to continue to mess with him throughout the rest of the year. Who knows how that's going to go. They're supposed to get some pitching back because, you know, they lost River Ryan last week. They just continue to lose guys. And we said it in the offseason, like they built this team on injury concerns. Yamamoto coming over. Every Japanese player seems to get an arm injury in their first season. What does he do? 3 months into the season, arm injury. You got Glass now. You got Bueller. You got Gonsolin, May. Like you just keep stacking Gratterall, Kershaw. Like you've got a staff full of injury question marks. And that bit them. Now, as they get healthy, that's good. But like, are you going to rely on Glass now to be good deep into October? I'm not comfortable he's going to be there for you in October.
Yeah. And at what point does the organization start looking at the strength and conditioning staff and being like, hey, maybe we need to tweak our throwing program a little bit. Like maybe these guys are throwing a little too much, or we're not giving them enough rest. And should we put them on an innings count?
Stop doing what the Yankees do and throw big contracts at guys that have, you know, long injury lists or a lot of miles on them.
Yeah, or that. So the wild card is where the NL wild card is where the
NL's
real
nuts.
race. The NL wild card is where the real race is. The Diamondbacks and the Padres are 4 games up on everybody else. Then you got the Braves in the 3rd spot. Mets are a half game back. Cardinals are a game and a half. So are the Giants. And then Cubs are 3. Reds are 4.5. Pirates are 5. And then everybody else is 8 or more. Yep. So we got 6 teams. We have 9 teams fighting for 3 spots.
Basically,
this race in the next 2 months is got all my attention. I am watching this closely because the Mets could leapfrog into that wild card spot here in the next day or so.
Yeah. And the AL wild card, realistically, you've got the Red Sox on the outside, the Twins, the Royals, and the Mariners. You got 4 teams fighting for 3 spots. Like everybody else is kind of out of it at this point. It's still an interesting race, but the NL is where all the action is going to be for August and September.
Yeah, it's crazy. So, all right. So that was a quick rundown through the divisions.